You recognize him, Mr. Abraham Lincoln, right? Many years ago he mentioned this, that things may come to those who wait, but only the things left by those who hustle, right? So many years ago he said this, and he just said it among like the entire speech, one line, and we took it so seriously that we are organizing one TEDx talk on this topic, one word. So yeah, but that's not the thing. We are going to, hustling is something which I believe has become a part and parcel today of what we do, no matter whether you are an entrepreneur, whether you are into business, whether you are into sports, whether you are irrespective of the field, right? Millennials. Who are we? We all are millennials. What do we want? What do we want? To hustle, right? And how do we do it? But that's the question, right? We don't know. We just want to hustle, and also because, so this word hustling has been existing for a really long time, but for the majority of its lifetime it was used with a little negative connotation to it, right? If you're cheating while playing, while gambling, right, you hustle your way. So, but only in recent past, like so many other things which have kind of become mainstream with entrepreneurship, hustling has also become mainstream, right? So people have started talking about it, and everyone wants to hustle, but we really have to kind of understand that is there a science about it, right? Because there's an art to hustling, definitely, right? But there has to be a science also to figure out. And the purpose of this talk, right, I really want all of you to take home this one thing after this talk, that there is madness for sure, but there is a method to that madness. And what is that method is what we are going to talk about today, right? So the topic of my talk is how hustling lifts you from average to above average league. Is it very specific to only certain segments when you talk about hustling? Like for example, if you are not getting into entrepreneurship, if you are not running your own business, or if you are a part of a business, or does it really make sense for you to understand what hustling is, right? So you have to understand that gone are those days when you were given a job description, or when things were more about processes, right? Today it's all about outcomes, right? And then you would have heard, that's why people saying that you have to make your way, you have to hustle through it, right? Which basically means that today it's all about hustling, and today it's all about outcomes basically, and the way to do it, to achieve those outcomes, is hustling. Hustling is merely a process, right? And if it really helps you achieve your outcomes, then it's a good thing to have, right? And other thing you also have to understand somewhere, that we might have been talking about it now and over the last few years only, but it has been existing in our systems in everywhere for really long time. In Ramayana, right? Just a small example in mythology, when Hanuman, right, he took the entire Dronagiri Parvat, right, the mountain, with Sanjeevani Booty to Lakshman. What was that? That was hustling at its best, right? Because there was an outcome which was supposed to be reached. The outcome was that the Sanjeevani Booty needs to come to Lakshman. Now here's Hanuman, he doesn't know that what is Sanjeevani, which one is Sanjeevani Booty. He has to achieve an outcome, and using his skills, right, using his skills, he goes and he takes the entire mountain and he just achieves. So that's hustling, right? So today we are going to talk about those skills, right? No, we are not going to talk about skills like lifting mountains, but still the skills which are humanly possible, right? How and what does it comprises of today, right? So these are based, I sat through and I realized that when we talk about the method to madness, what are some of the skill set which we can have? A combination of those can actually help us achieve the certain outcomes, right? Now I'm going to run through these skills one by one, and then you would have heard about these skills definitely, right? Be it communication, be it thinking bit, but let's little bit spend some time to understand what does it really mean when we say, right, communication, and why does it make so much of sense to have one of those skills, right? These skills typically feature in resume of each and every student without even understanding the meaning, just to get that job. But let's today spend some time, maybe 5-6 minutes, to understand what these skills really mean? So we're going to start with communication, right? What is communication? Communication is basically just an ability to express what you have in your mind, right, effectively. It can be via speaking, it can be via writing, right, and then it's very important, because unless until you express what's in your mind, what you are thinking, it will be very difficult to kind of go along or achieve anything in life, right. Second one, which I feel is one of the most underrated skill, is reflecting. The reason I put that skill reflecting is also because today when we talk about hustling, people associate it with a bit of chaos, that you just have to run through. Basically people start imagining like in a traffic jam, you are just, there's a two-wheeler which is just going here and there, right, and it's hustling through. So there is chaos, but you have to understand that you cannot keep on doing something without achieving the outcome. So you have to pause and reflect after some time, if it's not working out, and it's very integral part. Next, you have to dream big, right, and by dreaming big I don't mean just the scale of it. It's not about what's the scale we are talking about here, right. It's very important for you to kind of think beyond what's conventional, right, which also brings me to the next topic, which is think outside the box, right. Now think outside the box again, it's something which people speak a lot about, and people start thinking that where's the box, jiske bahar mujhe sochna hai, where do I have to think outside, the reason is this box is nothing but a system basically, right. And a very small example of it is, I was talking to Sidhu Punapa, who heads engineering, data engineering for Gojek. It's one of the largest Indonesian company, and he mentioned a very good point that many years ago, when people used to have smallpox, it was assumed that you're going to die, right. Today is the same thing with cancer at a certain stage, right, that once you have it, you assume. So you have, because that has been taught to you, it's not even possible for you to think like, death is for sure going to come, aging is going to happen, but somewhere somebody thought outside the box that, hey, let me challenge that. So that's why it's very important, because of our let's say education system, or the surroundings, or our comfort zones, it's very difficult for us to kind of think outside the box, but that's a very important thing. Risk taking, one has to take risks, and I have a very beautiful example in the following slides about it. Risk taking, it's basically another perspective to risk taking, is that while you are taking a risk, right, you don't really think a lot about it. I'll give you an example. When we write so many startup stories at YourStory, people just come and say that, hey, really hats off to this entrepreneur, he jumped off the cliff, he or she left the job which was so cushy, paying them so well, and they just jumped off the cliff. But the point is, you have to understand from the perspective of the person who is jumping off the cliff. For them, it's just about going from one point to the other point. If they had realized, just think about it, if you really realize that you are jumping off the cliff, are you mad that you are going to jump off the cliff? No. For you, it's probably that you see a bigger opportunity somewhere, right? You see that where you are currently is not a great position to be in. So that's about risk taking, right? That appetite has to be there, but you don't have to think a lot about it, that I have to do only risky things in life. Network, right? Again, a very misunderstood term. People think that by when we talk about having network, it means that you need to have contacts among very big people, right, and very influential circles, but that's not. Network is just basically having connects among the right set of people, right, and it's not about knowing really big or influential people, because you need to get work done. You need to have people in your network, right, who can eventually help in that, and that can be everyone from a peon to a CM basically can get certain amount of work done in a department, right. And so it's not about, sometimes people who all the time meet the CM cannot get certain things done, which people knowing peons can get done. Not to promote that kind of culture, but just to mention, right, it's a kind of evolution. By the way, if you see, no matter how how much smart we become, we talk about, ultimately it's all about the evolution of the systems which have been existing. Next one is aligning, right? The ability to align people, because you have to understand that you yourself cannot achieve everything, right? You have to take people along with you. So it's very important, do you have that ability to align people, right? And then that also kind of very closely binds with negotiation, which negotiation is not about negotiating the money, right? Negotiation is all about can you give a person a better deal? It's as simple as that. Whether it is to convince a person to work with you, whether it is you know, and it works both ways. You have to give and take. Basically, you also have to kind of help people, right? And in very selfless manner, and that's an important quality to have, right? Moving on, confidence. Now, the lack of confidence and insecurity is something which can always stop you from achieving what you would want to. So, it's very important to be secure about what you want and whether you are the right person for that, and be confident about it, right? Because your confidence kind of affects a lot of things, the people you interact with when you are trying to get people aligned to something. So, it's very important to be confident about what you are doing, right? And the confidence is not about really knowing a lot, but it's being in that comfort zone, that it is my area, my domain, right? Curiosity, it's you know, at no point of time can you think that you know enough and that's it for you. You really have to be curious all the time, right? So that's again fairly important thing, that you have to learn from each and every individual, and learning is a process which should never stop. So that's the driving force behind that. Focus, again, you know, when you talk about hustling, people think that it's about putting a lot of pieces of jigsaw puzzle together, and but again, if you remember, for that you need to have focus. You need to know what are you building, right? And focus also kind of acts as a driving force in order to achieve what you really have stepped out to achieve, right? Moonlighting basically means that you have to continuously work on, if you got an idea, right? During the odd hours, during the night time, are you working, taking out time to work on those? Sachin Bansal, you know, we all know who Sachin Bansal is, right? Correct. So Sachin Bansal had, if you understand, among all the qualities which he had, I guess 2 or 3 which stand out extraordinarily is, one is definitely dreaming big, because I remember I met him in 2014. And then that was the time when Myntra was acquired by Flipkart, and we asked that what's the vision for you in long term for Flipkart? Do you really want an exit? Are you looking at some big company? And he said, no, I really want to build $100 billion business out of India, and I want to show that. Of course, that couldn't happen, and Flipkart was sold for $21.2 billion. But what's really important here to understand is that, you know, to even think of it, just to give you a perspective of what $100 billion really means, is that TCS recently became the first Indian company in the history to achieve that kind of valuation. And just imagine an entrepreneur who is running a company for, let's say, 7 years, just around that time, could think of reaching to that milestone. So he could really dream big. He had a network. Now here, network is what is little different, and you have to understand this, is he was residing in Jwalamukhi hostel in IIT Delhi, and he kind of you know, recruited a lot of people in Flipkart, the early employees and a lot of senior employees who were in that hostel. So here's the network comes, right? Like I said, that you have to be, people sitting in the room might be very useful for you at some or the other stage of your life. So you just have to figure out that, you know, what that network is going to be. So networking doesn't mean that you just need to know very influential people. That, because even if you knew the Prime Minister, then the Prime Minister wouldn't have helped him make Flipkart pretty big, right? So network comes very handy, and it has to go along with the relevance part as well. He could align the team. He was thinking outside the box. Definitely cash on delivery option was not there, and he introduced that, kind of impacted a lot of things in e-commerce in India today, right? The reason, because we didn't have a lot of trust in online shopping, we were not using a lot of credit cards, debit cards, so that was fairly important. And next is Amir Khan. I just wanted to put, you know, slightly go away from the entrepreneurship thing, and also kind of to give you some perfect examples here. So reflecting, right, the kind of movies he was doing versus the kind of movies he's doing is different, because he took out time, he reflected. Even though they were giving good money, good box office collection, he was like, no, I have to reflect. This is not what I want probably something else. So that's why it's very important for you to reflect, think outside the box. That's clearly the kind of projects he take on, be it Satyamev Jayate, right, be it Lagan, right, Mangal Pandey. So this kind of shows that he's thinking outside the box all the time. Risk taking, he's a huge risk taker with all these projects, right. There's no proven history that they have made huge box office collections, but he did that. And of course, risk taking is associated with failures also, because Thugs of Hindustan, right, that was a risk he took and it failed miserably. So but again, failures are the pillars of success. That's not going to stop him, right. Is he going to stop making such films? No, he's going to continuously experiment and keep on taking these risks. Focus, I mean, that's something which we all know, the kind of, if he has to shed some weight, he'll do that. If he has to gain some weight, he'll do it. Focus, right, and all, that's fairly important. So what I really want you to take away from this presentation, this talk, is basically don't sit and procrastinate. It's very important for you to hustle. Just go out, whatever you are doing. And then that's why I don't want hustling to be associated with specific entrepreneurship or just business. Whether you are going for an UPSC, right, you becoming an IS officer, whether you are going to become a sports person, whether getting into politics, whether you're getting into international relations, running, whatever it is, you have to hustle your way, right. You have to just focus on how to get those outcomes and just make it happen. So that's about it. And remember, right, what is it? We have to take things less seriously. Okay. So that's my time, and thank you so much. Please keep on working on a hustle muscle.